Hi, and welcome back to Studio B Ventura for another Business Spotlight podcast, the show designed to help you grow your business. I'm Rodney Medina, your host for today's Business Spotlight podcast. Our podcasts are intended to guide you in reaching your target audience by adding a personal touch to your communication with your customers, and to help you increase your customer base while at the same time enhancing your brand. On today's Business Spotlight podcast, I'd like to welcome Jonathan Wagoner, the CEO of JW Home Care. JW Home Care specializes in cleaning and restoration services, which include water damage restoration, mold damage restoration, and fire damage restoration. Whether you're a local resident or business anywhere else in Southern California and beyond, JW Home Care is only a phone call away. So if your property has suffered serious damage, JW Home Care will assist you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Sounds like a smart move, and it makes total sense. Just check out their 5-star customer reviews. JW Home Care has a lot of satisfied customers. Jonathan, welcome to our Business Spotlight podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Restoration is a unique business because it's something that we don't ever want to think about, right? Because usually something tragic has happened. How did you get into this business?
Right out of high school, I started cleaning carpets, and carpet cleaning and restoration sometimes run hand in hand. So that introduced me to the industry, and the rest is history from there.
It must be, you must get a good feeling from doing the work that you do because of the transformation that you're able to provide for people.
Absolutely. Sometimes we'll go in and that, customers standing in water, and to see the entire process through and leave them a better product is a good feeling.
So you mentioned water. What are the most common restoration services that you provide for your customers?
Yeah, I would say the most common service that we provide is water damage, and normally it's from a busted pipe in the house. So failed plumbing fixture, supply line, slab leak.
So things can happen instantaneously where huge swaths of your apartment or home can be damaged, but also a slow leak can create some havoc as well.
Oh, the slow leaks create more damage than a busted pipe sometimes.
Because it's buried, you don't really see what's going on until it starts appearing.
Yeah, absorbs into all the building materials, and by the time it shows itself, you have significant damage to the property.
So you serve what areas?
So primarily Ventura County. We're based out of Ventura, California, and we do go to parts of Los Angeles and all of Santa Barbara County.
Ventura County is subject to fire season, so yes. I'm sure whenever there is, like we had the Thomas Fire a few years ago up here in Ventura. Tell me what that disaster was like for you.
Yeah, I don't even remember that entire period of, we were just so slammed with work. But that ripped through our backyard, and Ventura is a very community-oriented place, and to see how everybody came together was incredible. But the firefighters do a wonderful job at controlling the fire, getting the fire put out, and then that's where restoration teams come in and restore the homes.
Now, when the fire department arrives, say there's your home or whatever's engulfed in flames. Now you have fire damage and you have water damage, so you have to deal with both of those.
Typically, it's a slow moving process, so we normally deal with mold damage after that as well.
We just went through COVID, which kept a lot of people at home. Unfortunately, we also saw a lot of businesses go out of business. How did COVID affect your business?
COVID significantly affected our business because people were now home. Instead of going to work and coming home to a flooded house, they were able to catch it, which was a good thing, but in result, definitely slowed down our business.
When somebody suffers damage to their home, say, water specifically, what actions should they take, if any? Obviously there's different degrees of the type of damage, but what is the first thing they should do?
I would say don't panic. Immediately find the source, turn off the water to the house. Don't just call the first person that pops up online or in the phone book. Do your research, because it is a process that is obviously overwhelming because you're standing in, water, and you've got to get this urgently taken care of, and urgency is definitely a key, but you don't want to hire a bad company out of that. And I have seen my fair share of bad companies do a disservice to clients.
So what makes JW Home Care different than the others?
Well, I like to say we treat our customers as, John Smith, not claim number 1, 2, 3, 4, and really make sure that we understand what they're going through and walk them through the entire process. And I mean, sometimes we're not, actively involved in the reconstruction on their particular project, but if they have questions or our job to assist them, we definitely want to take care of them, where other companies just kind of pass the buck. Well, we're done with our job. It's not our responsibility. You didn't hire us for this.
Now, many times people have to go through an insurance company to pay for this restoration. Do you work with the insurance company as well? How much are you involved in that?
Very involved. We're more involved than the client would be in the insurance process. But yeah, we work with every insurance company. Proper documentation is key for any insurance claim.
What should people look out for when they are looking for companies? Are there any scams out there that are ongoing that people should be aware of when it comes to restoration?
Yeah, insurance work is you can have your fair share of scams. I mean, I've got companies that I know that have changed their name multiple times and they're moving on, but it's essentially just taking the insurance check and leaving the job.
What happens if you're in a rental? Say you're in a rental unit or an Airbnb and something happens. I mean, obviously, what if it's your fault? Like you accidentally leave who pays for that? Or is it covered by the insurance, or do they really try to find liability in that situation?
It really depends. I mean, if it's pure negligence, I mean, insurance companies, and this is funny to say, but insurance companies do cover stupidity. So you leave something on and flood the place, but there's also, they went out of their way to cause property damage. Yeah, they'll go after you.
Is there one particular job that you remember that was just completely insane? As far as what you had to do, what you saw, what you had to clean up?
Yeah, anytime we deal with a commercial property, that adds its own challenges. And I can think of one where we had about 50,000 square foot flooded, unfortunately had mud about 4 inches up. And so that all had to come out, and working with the business to keep them open. Obviously businesses can't survive when their doors aren't open. So we want to get that business back together as quickly as possible. So sometimes it's our teams working around the clock to get that taken care of.
So you mentioned mud. That's obviously another natural disaster that can happen. How much of your business is brought on by natural disasters like fire, mudslides, that kind of thing?
Well, I would say fortunately not a ton of work. Now, you go to the East Coast, you've got some hurricanes. You go to Texas, you've got hail, wind. Here in California, we deal with fires, but they are few and far, especially in Ventura County. I mean, the last one we had was 4 years ago, and I hope we don't have another one for 40 years.
Yeah, that was my brother actually lost his home up in Ventura, never rebuilt, still has the property, but I know there were a lot of people who did, and some people were able to salvage their home, which is, that must be something that you feel very proud of, because you'd be able to really put people's lives back together.
I can think of one where Christmas was coming around and we were able to deliver a client getting back into their home. That was his one request was we had just bought the house and we wanted to have our first Christmas there with our kids. They weren't adjusting well to the move, so it was nice to be able to deliver that time frame.
So you do commercial work as well. What are some of the more common commercial restoration? I mean, is it still water damage with commercial?
Still water damage. Definitely we have some mold, but a fire sprinkler being busted. We do a lot of that, and somebody's up messing with a ceiling tile and they knock the fire sprinkler, and it takes some time to get that off.
Your business, obviously, nobody gets into a business and wants any type of failure going on. Have you had any rough spots in your business, and how did you learn from that? More
than I can recall. Yeah, I mean, I've tried so many things, and it works, it doesn't work, you move on to something else, and I mean that's has proven successful, because I don't. Once it doesn't work, I immediately move on and figure out how we can change it and do better. So it's definitely worked for me.
What kind of expertise is required by restoration businesses that people should know that they're in good hands by knowing that those experts are working with them?
So California does not have any licensing requirement for water damage restoration. It could be a good thing for people getting into it, but it's also a very negative thing for a client. Any Joe Schmo could start up and say they do water damage. So one thing a client can look out for is check a website called the IICRC, and that is a third-party governing nonprofit that governs our industry. Technicians are typically certified through that website, and if you're dealing with a legitimate business, you're also dealing with something called a certified firm.
If someone has had some work done to their home, what are some of the first things they should look for to make sure that the job was done correctly?
Yeah, I mean, typically you've got multiple phases of a claim if you're dealing with it. So you've got the actual water damage restoration, which is demoing everything out and drying it properly and sanitizing. And then you've got the reconstruction. Some companies will do start to finish. If they're doing start to finish, it might behoove you to call for a second opinion and pay a consult to come in there before the repairs start. And if you're shopping around different companies, you want to make sure that that first company did what they said that they were going to do.
What are some of the questions that people should ask a restoration company before they even hire them?
That's a great question. I think one is verifying that business. Go online, check Yelp, check Google. Upset clients love to leave reviews, and you want to see what those reviews consist of. Hey, they said they were going to take a month to do this job, and it took them 7 months. Or they said it was going to be $3,000, and they ended up charging me $10,000. Now, different things happen throughout the process, but if you've got a company that's open and transparent, that's key. Check if they're IICRC certified. That's important. Ask them how long they've been doing this and what type of guarantee they offer.
What's the most satisfying part of you working with your customers and you doing your work about your business?
Something that's personally satisfying to me is taking a client from a competitor, and not so much that I don't. I've got a lot of competition that are good people, but taking it from a competitor that is unethical and walking them through the entire process. I can tell you there was one particular job I'm thinking of where the restoration company was trying to charge $25,000 and ended up taking about 6 months on the project, and excuse after excuse after excuse came in. They finally called us in. It was actually about a $40,000 project, so they didn't know what they were doing on their estimating or how to deal with the insurance company. So we facilitated that. Now, the client had already had a general contractor picked out. The insurance company had issued $5,000 on repairs. And so when we jumped in and helped facilitate, again, I had no interest in the repairs, but it was facilitating it getting done right. I think the total was about $250,000. So it went from $5,000 to $250,000, just an incredible amount. So that's definitely satisfying when I can see a client all the way through and help them, even if I'm not, vested in it.
Now, do people come and visit the job site, basically, which is their home, during construction or restoration services to kind of see the progress? Is that something that they should do? Or?
Oh, absolutely. They should be there every day. They should come in, see what's going on, what's the next plan, and especially when you get into construction. You want to show up at the end of every day and catch anything that is going to be an issue the next day.
Because when those walls go up, or that framing's done, the walls go up, or concrete, whatever, it's gone and you can't see it if it's covered up.
Yeah, something very simple of maybe a guy forgot to put a pocket of insulation in. It's a very simple fix when right before you put up drywall.
What's some damage that people might not see right away that they should be thinking about, or actually go in and look for? Look behind something or under something, because not all damage is evident right away.
Yeah, I would say the most common damage that I see that's a hidden damage is below kitchen cabinets. At some point, maybe there was a slow leak. Maybe it was cleaned up with some bleach and dried out. But unfortunately, once it's pulled, there's a ton of mold behind it, mold behind the drywall. It's really hard, but if you've got, if you open it up and you've got that musty smell, if you open it up and you can see mold growing and you're kind of wiping it away, you definitely need to get those looked at. We have moisture raters that can detect that.
So as a homeowner, you should do some inspection of your own home on a regular basis. What do you suggest to people to do? How often? Where should they look? What should they look for specifically?
I mean, definitely go into bedrooms, or more importantly, bathrooms, and look under the vanity. my teenage daughter, I went into her bathroom and there was damage in her vanity, and it had been leaking, and she just didn't tell us. So you want to get in there. You want to inspect that regularly. Go into the garage, check your water heater, make sure it's not leaking. Walk the property, make sure you have no issues with your foundation, cracked, anything like that. When you have a rain, you want to make sure that the water is being drained properly. So
just about anywhere there's moisture, it sounds like, where there's some water or the opportunity where moisture can come into the house.
Yeah, always keep your eye open to moisture, because it's in a lot of homes.
When you have damage in your home, can it make you feel sick or maybe make your allergies come alive?
That's a great question, and it's mold in its finest. Yeah, we'll have clients call us. They've got a sore throat, or their skin's itchy, their eyes are irritated, they have allergies. That could be a sign of mold in the home.
And they don't even think about that. They're going to their doctor wondering what's wrong with them.
Yeah, and a simple air test from a hygienist would help with that.
So you have equipment that you can take into a home and test for all of these different types of hidden damage?
So for moisture, yes. For something like mold, we do a visual inspection, but when you've got mold behind walls or you've got it in an area, instead of going in and ripping out a kitchen, we have a third party come in. They'll do some sampling, some air testing. It is a conflict if we do it, so you definitely want to have that resource.
Should people get their homes professionally inspected on a regular basis? And if they do, how much time in between those inspections should they have?
And those inspections could be costly. I wouldn't say that they should happen on a regular basis. Definitely before you buy a house, you want to have it inspected. Before you sell the house, you want to have it inspected so you know what you're disclosing. But just always being on the lookout for mold, for water damage.
Some people like to collect stuff, for lack of a better... Okay, they're hoarders.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've had to come in and do some work with people who have hoarded lots of stuff and they don't even know where their wall is. Tell me any experience like that.
We need to be compassionate of what they're going through.
Sure.
A lot of this stuff they've collected over the years, and unfortunately, we need to get it out in order to do our job so we don't have mold and secondary damage. So, yeah, it's a creative solution that we've got to work through with the client.
Yeah, I've heard that before with, especially with hoarders there. It's not something that it's just they like to collect stuff. It's actually something psychological that they go through. So you have to kind of deal with both things.
Oh, right? Yeah. When that stuff is damaged or you're hauling it away, you see they really care about their items, and we want to make sure that we protect them and get them back to them.
What kind of protective measures does your crew take when you go to a restoration job? And because they are concerned with their own health as well. But is it ever kind of put off the homeowner when they see you arrive? And tell me about the PP.
Sometimes we'll forewarn them that we're coming in. I mean, if you're dealing with a really bad mold or a sewage cleanup, which is maybe a backed up toilet, yeah, we've got to come in the full gear. Normally during a normal water damage, the PPE or the personal protective equipment is a little bit lighter than, what would be on a bacteria or a mold. But, and we've had situations where we need, you mentioned hoarders. We had a hoarder situation, and we had to double glove up because they had about 1,000 needles lying all throughout the house. The person was diabetic, and so we didn't want to accidentally get poked. So there was some measures that we took for protecting our employees for that.
Wow. Yeah, this is off thing. I did some work for a hoarders cleanup. They actually had a reality TV show, and they would clean up murder locations as well, crime locations.
That is within our industry, is the restoration side. It's crime scene cleanup. I happen to subcontract for that, but it's a service we don't I don't advertise for.
Yeah,
but
really,
yeah, I get calls.
Yeah. And so what other kind of associated, obviously you're not doing all of the work yourself. What other types of contractors do you work with when you're getting the job done?
So on the first part of the water damage is the dry out, the demo. We do all of that in-house, and sometimes moving contents, things like that. As reconstruction, that's where drywall, insulation, cabinets. We do have a source of contractors, but I mean, we're dealing with flooring contractors, cabinet contractors, sometimes roofing contractors.
So are you a licensed contractor?
We're a licensed general contractor, yes.
Okay, that's important to know.
Very important.
Because of all of the people that you have to involve in somebody's home. How often when you're doing a restoration, it probably happens all the time, but they want upgrades to their home. Obviously, insurance is going to cover only part of it, but do people get upgrades to their home and change things significantly, or is it just back to how it was before?
I wouldn't say significantly, but probably 9 out of 10 jobs, we're going back with something they didn't have. Now's the opportunity. It's a forced remodel, and now that they're in it, maybe they want to take the granite and switch it to quartz, or maybe there was a 6-inch backsplash and they want a tile backsplash. So, yeah, they definitely take advantage of upgrading while everything's taking place.
And unfortunately, today it's a lot more expensive to do some of that work. So it's a battle with the insurance company. Is that what it comes out to? Or do they have to put money out themselves?
It's always been a battle with the insurance company, but when they do upgrades, that does come out of their pocket. The insurance company is not responsible for that.
A lot of contractors get a bad rap. They take the deposit, then they go start the new job. This is a little different, although because it's restoration and people are really on this because they have to get back into their home, and communication is just so important. When the job gets bigger than originally anticipated, how do you communicate to the homeowner that, hey, it's going to take more and we're going to have more people and it's going to take more time?
Yeah, so I physically like to show them. And funny you bring it up. I'm working one. I was actually out there this morning. It was a kitchen water damage, and it has expanded to the entire downstairs of their home. So multiple wood floor, different types of wood floors come out, carpet. You just want to be up to date with the client. You want to show them why you're doing something and be able to justify it. When we work with insurance company, it's extremely important to provide that documentation. Get the adjuster on the phone. Let them know what's going on, what was found. Unfortunately, scopes do change. It's actually a good thing. When you've got somebody in there that's so fast to get their job done, they're in and they're out, they want to collect their money. For us, we want to make sure that we did everything extremely thorough. So if that water traveled, we're following that water and we're restoring it properly.
A customer might think that you're adding work to the job just to make more money, but the insurance company really is going to be on the side of the customer in a sense because they're trying to protect the insurance company money. So
absolutely. Working with insurance company is not an easy task. I mean, we're on the phones consistently with the insurance companies, emailing them back and forth. If it was a regular, just homeowner paying for something out of pocket, it's extremely easy for us to do and get it done. But with insurance, we need to make sure that we're providing that proper documentation. So there is definitely a protection for the homeowner. But when you've got a competitor or another restoration company that's unethical, signing those contracts and signing away that they can do what they need to do, that's where you need to protect yourself.
The building owner and the homeowner will have their insurance, but what about tenants? How typically are they covered?
Yeah, that's a great question. Tenants do have renter's insurance. It's an option of the tenant. You definitely want to have insurance. But what I see also is tenants being completely underinsured. So let's say somebody has $10,000 worth of property and they pick a $15,000 policy. They might say, well, hey, this is enough to replace all of my stuff. One thing that's not taken into account is the processing of that. So sometimes you'll deal with a fire damage where maybe a fire swept throughout the house or there's smoke damage and all of those contents need to be disposed of and replaced. Well, if the tenant thinks it's $10,000 worth of stuff, there could be cost of the restoration company going in and moving that stuff and inventorying, documenting it. If an asbestos abatement company needs to come in because maybe the fire department made a hole and there is asbestos in the house, all of that's compromised. The tenant can't get in there and do it. So that's very expensive. So you want to always make sure that you're overinsured.
So that's the lesson. If you're a tenant, overinsure yourself.
Overinsure yourself. If you've got $25,000 worth of stuff, put a $50,000 policy, put a $75,000 policy. It's a couple dollars extra a month, but if you need it, your insurance will be there for you.
Yep, it's a just in case that will matter when it has to.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like anybody who does business with JW Home Care is in good hands. You seem to Obviously, you have a passion for what you do because of the transformations you're able to provide for people. If people want more information about your service, how would they get a hold of you?
So if they need information on our service or just want to chat with me, visit jwhomecare.com. You can call our phone number, email me, text me. My number is relatively available.
Well, I hope nobody ever has to call you because of some water damage, but we know that the reality is that something is going to happen, small or large, and it could be a natural disaster. How far of a range are you willing to go to do your work, to provide your services? There are people listening to us right now, as far away as San Diego. How far do you go?
So we typically stay in Ventura County, Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, but we will go, if we need to go to San Diego, we will go to San Diego. It's a case-by-case basis, but I have a great network of people that I've networked with on the regular that can go up to Northern California if we have to, if you've got an incident in Texas. I've got people all around that know what they're doing, and I know you'll be in good hands.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you, Jonathan, for coming in today. You did a fantastic job here on your Business Spotlight podcast. And it sounds to me like you have a lot of compassion. I'm sure that anybody you help, they're really receptive to you, and they're in good hands with the communication that you're able to provide with them about the job that you're doing for them. So,
yeah, well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And it is something that I'm passionate about. I like doing the right thing and meeting clients that can appreciate that. It makes my day.
Yeah, well, you're making their home again, so that's important. Well, I think that does it for today's Business Spotlight podcast. I appreciate Jonathan being with us today, and I hope you learned a lot about JW Home Care and the valuable service they provide the community. I know I did. To get more information about JW Home Care, please visit their website shown below or call them at 805-387-9865. Their friendly staff is ready to assist you. Again, thank you for listening to our Business Spotlight podcast. If you'd like to be on our podcast, go to our website, studiobventura.com, or you can call us at 805-312-9523. And also visit our Instagram and Facebook page as well. I'm your Studio B Ventura host, Rodney Medina. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next Business Spotlight podcast.